black man was holding sandwiches and keys when an Ohio deputy fatally shot him, the prosecutor says. The gun the deputy said Casey Goodson Jr. was waving when he was shot in the back multiple times was found in the man's kitchen with the safety on, the prosecutors shared publicly for the first time. Think about that, folks. The gun that the cop said he was waving at him, of course, the cop shot him in the back. That gun was then found in that man's kitchen with the safety on, the prosecutors shared publicly for the first time. Columbus, Ohio, prosecutors say a gun that a former Ohio sheriff's deputy said a man was waving at him when he fatally shot him in the back in 2020 was found in the man's kitchen with the safety on. In his opening statement Wednesday in the murder case against Jason Meade, Special Prosecutor Gary Schroyer shared publicly for the first time where 23-year-old Casey Goodson Jr.'s handgun was discovered. Goodson, who fell when he was shot 6 times, with 5 shots hitting him in the back, also had a gun holster with no strap around his waist, Schroyer said. Meade, who is white, has pleaded not guilty to murder and reckless homicide in the death of Goodson, who was black. The sheriff's deputy shot Goodson as he entered his grandmother's house, police have said. The jury hearing the case was seated Tuesday, and testimony was expected to start Thursday. Jurors made a brief visit Wednesday afternoon to the scene of the shooting. Schroyer emphasized numerous times on Wednesday that Goodson was holding a bag of sandwiches in one hand and his keys in the other at the time he was shot. He also had his AirPods in his ears, Schroyer said. Neither he nor Goodson's family have ever disputed that Goodson could have been carrying a gun, but noted that he also had a license to carry a firearm. America. Based on Meade's aiming at vital organs and shooting of an assault-style rifle, Schroyer said Meade's actions meet the criteria for knowingly and intentionally causing Goodson's death. So, okay, Meade was aiming at the vital organs with an AR. He was shooting him, he was taking him out, and he did, he killed him. Casey did not pose a reasonable threat to him or anybody else at the moment when he pulled the trigger, Schroyer said. Meade's defense team maintained Wednesday that Goodson waved and pointed a firearm at Meade from his vehicle. I don't believe any of that. Yeah, it's a bunch of crap. Don't believe any of that. Nobody should. Defense attorney Caitlin Stevens said that Goodson did not heed warnings to stop and drop his weapon. He did have earpods in, folks, remember that. And that Meade feared for his safety and the safety of others, including those inside Goodson's grandmother's house, and therefore was justified in using deadly force. Hey, look, that kid with sandwiches is not listening to me yelling at him, and he's going in that house. Shoot him with the AR. Da, 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 da. Right in those vital organs. He killed him. He executed him. He killed him. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances, Stevens told the jury in her opening statement, and said that they are instructed to look at what a reasonable officer could have believed about the situation using deadly force. Officers on the beat are not afforded the luxury of hindsight. They're afforded every luxury. That guy has been afforded the luxury of sleeping in his own bed every night after he executed that kid. Meade was not wearing a body camera at the time. Oh, really? You mean you get to carry an AR pointed at somebody yelling at him? I don't know if he even yelled at him. I don't believe a word he said. Meade was not wearing a body camera at the time, so there was no video evidence of the shooting. That means there's no credible evidence at all, because the words out of Meade's mouth, they are not credible words. A federal civil rights lawsuit was filed by Goodson's family and is seeking unspecified damages. It alleges that the Franklin County Sheriff's Office failed to investigate claims of unreasonable force against black residents and failed to properly train deputies on firing guns at civilians. Oh, particularly at African Americans. I would submit that totally racializing this case, when cops do this to everybody across the board, yes, they love shooting black people, and probably more so than anybody else. But racializing it's not going to help the case at all. A federal judge has paused the lawsuit against Meade in Franklin County until after the criminal case. The officer had argued that simultaneously defending himself in both cases will put him in a no-win situation. Let me look at this again. A federal judge has paused the lawsuit against Meade in Franklin County until after the criminal case. Well, alrighty, let's get that criminal case on, and we'll see if he's going to do prison time, which he's not. Meade's attorneys have sought to have his case tried in federal court as a step toward having the state charges dismissed, and because it was far less likely Meade would be charged with killing Goodson under federal law. Franklin County prosecutors fought the move in order to keep the charges alive in state court. A federal judge ruled February 2022 that Meade was not acting in his role as a deputized U.S. Marshal at the time of the shooting and said the murder case must remain in state court. He wasn't even acting in his role, so he was off duty. Meade did not have authority to arrest Goodson as a task force member and was not acting as a federal officer at the time. And he still got away with it. Amazing. Federal Judge Edmund Sargas Jr. found Meade was a full-time resident there in Franklin County Sheriff's Department, blah, 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 assigned with U.S. Marshals. Hey, where's that thing where we say everybody holds everybody to the highest degree? They don't care on this one. They're like, he did his job. He killed that black kid. That's what they're trained to do. Well, Meade, you're a bad dude. Real bad dude.
This Saturday marks 1 year since Franklin County Sheriff's Deputy Jason Meade shot and killed Casey Goodson Jr. It happened at the 23-year-old's family home in North Columbus. Early Thursday morning, the now retired sheriff's deputy surrendered after a grand jury returned an indictment, 2 murder charges, 1 count of reckless homicide. 363 days later, after your son was shot and killed, you learned of these charges. What are your thoughts?
It was worth it. To see the charges that came about. The days were torturous, but it was worth it.
The day of the shooting, investigators told reporters a U.S. Marshals task force went to the area in search of a suspect, not Goodson. However, they said Goodson drove past them and waved a gun. The coroner's report shows Meade shot Goodson 6 times, 5 in the back, once in his buttocks. It happened, as his family says, he returned from a dental appointment, walking through the door with Subway sandwiches. Tamala Payne's attorney says 9 family members were in the house at the time and saw the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Among those relatives, Goodson's grandmother, a 10, 5, 4, and 3-year-old.
They're traumatized. You know, my mother says that every time she closes her eyes, she sees the bullet holes in his back. My 5-year-old son says he can still can still hear the glass breaking in his ears. They're traumatized. They still see him laying on the floor. My daughter, who was there, still sees him laying on the floor. So, they're traumatized for life. They're visuals that will never fade away. They'll always be there.
Payne says news of the charges against Meade is just one stop on her path toward justice.
I think we all know that Casey's special. Casey's making history. Casey's going to be the change in Columbus. Casey's going to be the change across our nation. My baby is already making history.
Well, if Meade does any time at all, it'll just be a little bit of time. But we all know he's a scumbag cop, typical killer cop. It's what they do. They kill people for the fun of it.